Hello, it's Eru here. Today I want to talk about a story I heard that reminded me of a very, very similar story in my life, and I'm sure it will reflect in your life also, especially if you're a wife. This is Principles of Marriage I'm talking about. Now, the question was in relation to a husband who came home from work. He asked his wife, who had a new baby, "What have you been doing all day?" Obviously, the house was in a mess. And that reminded me of a question I was asked. I'd been asked it a few times when I was a young wife with a new baby doing my first time degree in law. So I was a law student full-time mother as well, because when I got home, I continued as a student, but as a wife and mother as well. So my baby was about 9 months old, and I was asked this question yet another time when my husband got back from work. But the difference between my story and the other story was that house was in a mess. The wife had been cleaning it. The husband never noticed. When she decided to leave it, he asked, "What have you been doing all day?" And she tried to let him see that when you see it all clean, spick and span, that's what I've been doing. You've seen it now in a mess. This is what I've not been doing. But in my case, it was nice and clean. On the most part, it was always clean because I really couldn't study or live in a messy place. And I cooked, I'd cleaned, the baby was fine, settled, cleaned. And I was asked this question yet again. And instead of quarreling and fighting, I became a sage, a wise old person. And my answer was, with this mock look of surprise and awe, I said, "Guess what? An angel came down from heaven, bathed the baby, cleaned the baby, fed the baby, then proceeded to hoover the whole house and polish and clean, fold clothes and put them away. This angel now went into the kitchen, cleaned up there and cooked. It was amazing. I just sat here in awe." That shut my husband up. So if you're a husband that asks your wife that question, please stop doing it. It really makes no sense. Because I'm thinking, when you were growing up, did you not see firsthand what your mother did? Your mother, who may be precious to you, did she work hard? Did she clean and cook all day and come and get that question at the end of the day, "What have you been doing all day?" How did you feel for your mother, you who saw firsthand after coming back from school or before going back to school? If, like me, in some instances, you remember some cases of in your childhood, when you saw her go through all this to be asked that question, how did you feel? How do you think your mother felt? Don't ask that question anymore, especially if you know you do not have a living cleaner or a paid for cleaner. Someone is doing the work that you fail to appreciate. Now, moving on to principles of marriage, I've made some notes here. Appreciate your spouse. Obviously, that's the point I'm getting to. It's not just husbands, wives. Appreciate your husband. You married this person, or they chose to marry you. Please show appreciation. It's a very big principle of marriage. You cannot live your marriage life without appreciating your spouse, despising them. Everything they do is not good enough. It's not going to go well in your marriage if you continue with that. Another one is treat your spouse the way you want to be treated. If you want to be treated a certain way, i.e. with respect, with consideration, with love, to be considered, do you show that same appreciation to your wife, that same consideration, that love, that respect? You know, as you give, you receive, because when you sow, that's why I named the organization I'm heading Love Nurture. Love has to be nurtured. It doesn't just sprout out of nowhere. It may have started off that way, but to maintain it, you have to nurture it, just like a garden. If you fail to look after your garden, it's going to sprout weeds, it's going to be overgrown, it's going to look horrible. So if there's a marriage out there that you appreciate, understand they've worked at it. Be you a wife or a husband, that other couple have been working at theirs. Work at yours. Don't allow third parties come into your marriage. Who do I mean by third parties? Well, you know, a man was joined to his wife. You, as the man, you were joined to your wife, or and not all. Your in that union, that was just the two of you, keep it the two of you. Stop bringing third parties in. The opinions don't matter, especially negative opinions. What matters is how you view your spouse and how they view you. If there are issues that need to be dealt with, obviously you need third-party help. But where it's the day-to-day living and you are not married to a paedophile, because sometimes I need to stress this, or you're not married to a wife beater, a husband beater, or anything like that, don't let third parties come in and mess up what you have. People lie. If they tell you it's wonderful and rosy in their marriage and yours should be a bit more like theirs, they're probably lying to you. Work on your own marriage. Don't let people's negative statements, comments about your wife or your spouse affect the way you treat your wife or spouse. Obviously, if there are things that need to be dealt with, deal with it. Sit down and commune with your spouse and sort it out like adults. Don't compare your wife to your mother. If your mother was wonderful, she is wonderful, great cook, cleaner, whatever. Don't compare. Your mother was brought up by a different parent, so was your spouse. They weren't brought up by the same parents. And notice, maybe you fail to notice, that your mother has flaws that your spouse probably doesn't have. Your mother has weaknesses that your spouse is very strong in. Areas of your mom's weakness is probably your wife's strength. There are things your wife does that your mother cannot hold a torch to, and maybe vice versa. They're individuals. In the same vein, if your wife were to compare you with her wonderful, lovely father, who is wealthier than you are, better looking than you are, taller than you are, able to achieve more than you did at this time of life you're in, would you like it? Think about that. This is what we're talking about when I say, and when you hear other counselors, other people who teach on marriage, when they say these things, do not treat your spouse the way you do not want to be treated. So when you go about comparing your wife, consider this. If your wife were to compare you with her father, would you like it? So please, let's live wisely. Let's treat each other considerably. Let's act maturely. The principles of marriage are clear. If you choose to go against them, you're killing your marriage. Marriage has to be nurtured. And these are the principles that help to build a stronger, loving, lasting relationship. Love your wife as Christ loved the church, and wives, submit to your husbands. It's clear. You choose to go against it, it will be it will be catastrophic is the word I was going for. You don't want that. So apply the principles. Thank you for listening. Take care. Spread the word and join my channel. Subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Thank you very much for your time. Bye.